I remember when we were talking on phone, you mentioned that you believe that this is the iPhone moment. And that really struck with me. Like, can you help me understand what do you mean when you say the iPhone moment, and why do you believe that this is the iPhone moment?
Previously, everything was based on like desktop
Right.
applications, or like often non-internet based. It was like, imagine if I had to like book a hotel or like call a taxi. I had to make a phone call or
Right.
go online on my computer. And with the iPhone, there was a change in the way I interact with the world around me, which is through this device I have in my pocket. I can press a button and it enables completely new use cases. Like, imagine I'm standing on a road and I need a taxi to come to me and pick me up and
Yeah.
take me where I need to go. That did not exist
That
before.
was really magical, right?
You actually recommended these easy jeans to me. I'm wearing them. I love them. Like, what if that was somehow captured in a knowledge base and I could just tell my AI that, hey, like, go order the jeans that Piyush told me about. That's how I want to interact with computing systems and with businesses in future. Hey, welcome to the Art and Science of AI. You're listening to Season 1, which we recorded in May 2023 as a continuous 3-hour-long conversation. Season 2 is now live, so if you're enjoying this discussion, please subscribe for new episodes every week.
I remember when we were talking on phone, you mentioned that you believe that this is the iPhone moment. And that really struck with me. Like, can you help me understand what do you mean when you say the iPhone moment, and why do you believe that this is the iPhone moment?
Oh, yeah. First, I just want to clarify, I didn't invent this terminology. Like, it was the NVIDIA CEO that came up with this terminology. He said we're going through an iPhone moment right now. And so let me say why I think he said that and why I believe in it. So what was revolutionary about 2007, the iPhone moment, was that there was a shift in the fundamental interface we use to interact with businesses and services. Previously, everything was based on like desktop
Right.
applications, or like often non-internet based. It was like, imagine if I had to like book a hotel or like call a taxi. I had to make a phone call or
Right.
go online on my computer. And with the iPhone, there was a change in the way I interact with the world around me, which is through this device I have in my pocket. I can press a button and it enables completely new use cases. Like, imagine I'm standing on a road and I need a taxi to come to me and pick me up and take me where I need to go. That did not exist before.
That was really magical, right? Like, Uber was magical. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Or like Uber Eats or Swiggy in India, like those kind of things where, I had such a pain, like where in India especially, like explaining to someone on the phone what my address is like
Uber,
a huge nightmare.
I think I increased my lifespan because of Uber, and let me explain why I say that. Because one of the back when Uber launched, I was in India and in Bangalore, and Bangalore is infamous for its taxi system to be based on negotiations and not like a fixed price. Every place you need to go, you have to negotiate the price, and it was just the worst thing that I had to engage in every morning. I'd be like, okay, how much for like that building? Because I lived very close to my office, but still not walkable because it was very hot and whatnot. So like, how much to that building? And that guy would be like 100. I'm like, it's literally that building. Like, what? This is insane. He's like, no, that's like whatever. Like, and it was like,
it wasn't. You're saying it's just Bangalore. Maybe it started that way, but it was Hyderabad. I lived in Bombay and Hyderabad.
No, Bombay. Like, the one good thing about Bombay is like they still like. I mean, even before Uber, they were.
No, actually, I'll tell you. The worst thing about Bombay is in Bangalore, it's a negotiation, right? In Bombay, it's not a negotiation and they just say yes or no. So if I say I want to go here,
that's a really good point. That's another problem. Like, the one problem is the
yeah.
pricing ambiguity, and the
I
other
prefer the negotiation, because in Bombay, it was like I would go to the guy, he would say no. And instead, just open the conversation with like how much you want.
Yeah.
So
anyway, right. I think I get your point. Like, iPhone moment enable like all these businesses to come out because everyone had access to a technology like which was in the palm of their hand. It had like mapping services and like internet. Like, remember that famous thing by Steve Jobs where like the way he
the three
launched
things,
the iPhone,
right?
It's an internet, a music, iPod, and then he repeated that. It was like
an iPod, a new phone, and a revolutionary internet communications device. Yeah, that is one of the most amazing product launches in all of history. But the key point is that there was a new interface, a new way in which people were interacting with businesses. So if you were a business, let's say say you're Amazon, okay? like originally the way in which people interacted with your business was they logged onto their laptop, they went to Amazon.com, and then they transacted with your business services. Now there's a whole new interface. I have my iPhone, and what it needed for you to do is you need to develop now an iPhone application, a mobile application, so that I can interact with it on my preferred way of interaction. Because now, like, I no longer want to log onto my computer every time I want to order.
Or
like,
I don't want to call anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's the key shift that happened, is there's a new method for consumers to interact with businesses and services.
Right.
So I think when people say there's a new iPhone moment now, what that means is that there's now yet another new way in which consumers want to be able to interact with services. So I want to be able to interact with Amazon, probably not just through the regular Amazon app UI, but I want to have some like natural language interface to interact with Amazon. I want to tell Amazon that, hey, like, based on everything you know about me, based on maybe you and I had an email conversation about like some jeans, we've talked about easy jeans. You actually recommended these easy jeans to me. I'm wearing them. I love them. Like, what if that was somehow captured in a knowledge base, and I could just tell my AI that, hey, like, go order the jeans that Piyush told me about. That's how I want to interact with computing systems and with businesses in future. I don't want to have to go to Amazon or to the Uniqlo website and figure out what is I have to go to my email, figure out or remember in my own memory like what you told me, and type in the name Easy Jeans and get that. Now it's like I want to have a connected natural language interface where I can say, look, Piyush told me about this thing.
Like you sound like you mean like a life companion of sorts, where they're context aware about all the happenings in your life, and they can like do stuff for you, like an assistant. Maybe you shouldn't use the word companion. Maybe that's different. But
I think that is going to be the new interface, like, because we talked about ChatGPT, we talked about access to knowledge bases.
Right.
That's already coming. We already have so much of our knowledge stored in email. If I combine my Gmail, my WhatsApp conversation history with you, plus if there was some way like my phone calls with you and these interactions could be recorded and stored, like there's just such a wealth of information. And if that is a ready-made context for me to have interactions, then the interactions I'm going to have with businesses are totally different. I'm just going to say, oh, okay, like go order the thing Piyush told me about. And
are there examples of any such early businesses that you know of that are using this shift in interface as you describe it, or like the paradigm shift from?
So right now, I think what people are trying to do is convert existing interactions into natural language interactions. So that's what ChatGPT plugins does. So ChatGPT recently, or OpenAI about a month ago, released a service called Plugins, where you as a business owner can provide a plugin to ChatGPT. And one of the original plugins they came out with were Kayak, Expedia,
Provider.
Yes, OpenTable, the restaurant bookings, Instacart. Actually, Instacart is something Rukma and I used recently. So we keep our shopping list in Google Keep. We have a shared Google Keep.
Yeah, we do that as well. Yeah.
We can both add things to our shopping list.
Yeah.
And then literally we copy pasted that entire shopping list into ChatGPT using the Instacart plugin and said, hey, order all these items. And it automatically generated an Instacart order. And in fact, it asked us for some ambiguities. It said, oh, hey, you asked for like oranges. Do you want this type of orange or this type of orange? And then it was like, oh, you wrote yogurt, but like, what is the quantity you wanted?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And then it got that information and it immediately generated an Instacart order with everything. And then all I had to do is click like approve to buy or like cancel. And over time, that could learn my preferences. Maybe it just already knows that when I write apples, that means I like Fuji apples. That's my favorite kind of apple. When I write yogurt, I mean like whatever, XYZ yogurt. It saves my preferences. And then my interaction with Instacart is extremely simplified now. I don't have to like go and select like these detailed like options. I just write a very simple like Google Keep list. I say I need apples, yogurt, potatoes, onions, whatever, and it knows exactly what I mean by all that. It saves my
Yeah. So
preferences.
what I'm hearing you say is that like one of the things that's gonna happen is you have the existing way of doing things, and it's gonna remove that friction, and it's gonna make it more easy to do these things, right? Like make it more natural language. Like it's gonna like, so for example, right now you have your shopping list, you go on Instacart, you do all that. That whole process, that friction is removed, and
Yeah.
it'll all be done automatically, and you can sort of rely on that
Yeah.
interface to take care of everything. If there's ambiguity, like figure out from your preference what kind of orange you would
Yeah.
like and all of that.
I think it still remains to be seen exactly how this will evolve. Like, are my preferences going to be stored in Instacart, or will I have my own personal AI where I store my preferences?
Yeah, I'm
and
not
that
so much
will
bothered about
yeah.
like how it'll be
Yeah.
implemented technically. I'm like sort of envisioning what our lives will look like with this,
Yeah.
and I can see what our lives will look like. It's gonna be.
Have you seen the movie Her?
Yeah, I love that movie, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah,
man.
I think like it's
Actually, that so it's a great segue to my next question. Like movie Her is a great segue. Is okay. This, the way you described it, is how existing businesses or existing use cases will transform. But what I am curious to know from you is what are some new things that will emerge because of the new capabilities of these technologies, like businesses that weren't possible before, or ideas that weren't not possible to be executed before that now can be executed because of like this powerful technology we have. And then we discussed the evolution of this powerful technology, like auto GPT being like this manager that you have access to.
Yeah.
Like, hey, do this for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I'm anthropomorphizing auto GPT, but it's going to be like, okay, this is the high level task. Here's how I'm going to plan to do this task. I'm going to break it into subtasks. Here are all the tools I need to achieve these subtasks. And it's like a genie, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is like the $1 billion question. If I knew the answer to this, I'd probably go be building this product right now, and I wouldn't be.
But you're in this industry. Like, do you know of like some ideas that people are building, that are use cases that have not been possible before, types of businesses that have not been possible before?
Yeah, to be honest, like I think it's still very early, and I cannot think of any such use cases right now that are popular. ChatGPT would be one example. Like
right, Midjourney is an example.
Midjourney and Chat, but they're like very base level examples.
Yeah.
They're not.
They will enable these businesses. Maybe.
Yeah, they will ideally enable like in future businesses. And I've been trying to think about what are some businesses that would be enabled, but yeah, I think there is no clear answer to this right now. If there were, there just can't be at this stage because it's still like early stages. If people knew the answer already, like that would already be there right now.
The other question I had related to the topic that we're discussing right now is, like, we have discussed this previously, like an ideal, like one of the things that we've always talked about is like a life of a solopreneur, right? Like a solopreneur is a person who like has a product or a company, is basically able to fund their life and lifestyle with a business that they are a sole employee of, meaning like they run the business. It's a single employee company, right? And it sounds like these technologies can really enable that vision, right? Because you can make it easier to code. If you're thinking of an online business, you can make it easy to code. Like there are all these code applications. You can call all these APIs. With Auto GPT, you can almost use it as like a tech lead and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's the one side of thing. The other side is, it sounds like as there's more and more development in these technologies, like these interfaces getting more and more powerful, and like these API calls are getting more powerful. So it sounds like any idea that you have will sort of be short-lived, or you'll always live in this existential crisis, is that some API is going to basically generalize your problem. Like, let me give you an example. Like one of the things that I've been experimenting with Midjourney, because I find all this stuff very fascinating, is, have you heard of this thing called Dream Booth?
No.
So Midjourney is an application where you can basically create any image that you can imagine, and you can imagine that with a prompt. You write the prompt and it'll imagine. But let's say you wanted to imagine yourself in different situations, like Nikhil as in a spacesuit, or Nikhil, like, I don't know, wearing whatever, like a 17th century costume. Midjourney cannot do that because it's not trained on your specific face era. So Google came up with this research, and then like an open source product called Dream Booth, where you train the stable diffusion model on your selfies or like
There was this thing called Deep Dream earlier, right?
Yeah, maybe there are other products similarly, but the idea is that you create your own version, right? So there are a lot of businesses that are coming up with this. Like a lot of, I think you were the one who actually showed me. You shared this guy's Twitter stream about this business he created where he was
headshots,
right. I was actually very inspired by that. Like this whole thing, my wheels started turning. I was thinking about solopreneurship because that guy
AI
is basically
generated headshots,
a solopreneur, right? Like what he's doing is basically he's taking people's selfies and then he's creating a AI generated headshot, which is an amazing business. All of us are on Zoom. We want like a nice professional. It costs like $500. That guy's doing for $30, and like it's like MP3 versus Wave, right? MP3 gets you 95% of the quality, and no one cares about that 5%, and it's like a tenth of the storage, so it's a tenth of the cost. But Adobe, your ex-employer, is working on this product called Firefly, in which they're sort of journalizing this whole thing. Like basically, you'll input a bunch of pictures, and then you'll give a prompt like, "Do this with these pictures, like this person." So that kills all the ideas with this concept, right? And then let's generalize this. It sounds like it's like an ultimate API contest where like everyone's trying to build like this generalized, powerful thinking thing where you basically prompt, here's what I want, and you will get that. So my question really is like, here's a dream of solopreneurship, but here's this fear that like these powerful tech companies with like their GPUs and their computational power and the direction in which they're heading is like more generalized problem solving. Like, how do you think about this? Like, I'm in conflict. Like, is it like a futile effort to even approach this part? Unless you're like thinking of getting acquired, like build something in the short term. Like, but what if you want to do like a meaningful pursuit where you want to dedicate the rest of your life? Like I have like 25, 30 years more work remaining.
So, sorry, are you saying, I'm trying to understand, are you saying that the big companies are going to take over all the popular use cases and there will be nothing left for small...
Yeah, my fear. Like that's my worry. Is it the right way of thinking it? Like I'm telling you what I'm thinking through, and I want your opinion on this. Like, is there a right way of thinking about it?
I think it depends on the use case. It's very possible that like big companies will dominate because one of the things we discussed is limitations of training data. Like one of the main ways in which your model is more powerful than someone else's model is because either it has more training data or it has more compute. Meaning more parameters, more complex model, etc. Training data is increasingly getting locked down, I think. In fact, one thing about Adobe is this guy that I listen to, Ben Thompson, I don't know if you know, Stratechery, he talks about this a lot. He did an interview with Adobe's chief product officer, Scott Belsky, and one thing they talked about was copyright violations and image generation models. And Adobe is very much doubling down on their model, Firefly, being like a safe alternative to Midjourney, because Midjourney is not safe.
Who knows what training data has been involved?
Exactly.
You might get in legal trouble. So
in the sense that it's legally not safe. Like, but it's not clear right now whether the...
So you're saying... Sorry, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
I was saying it's not clear right now whether the legal standard should be applied at the layer of input or output. That itself is not clear. Like, if I take some, say, Marvel, okay, as an example, can I take Marvel movies and images as input to my training data? Is that valid or not? I don't know, because current copyright law does not specify that.
Our current laws are not designed to understand like this technology.
Yes, exactly.
Or they were written in a time where like technology like this didn't exist.
It's very clear that at the output layer, it's prohibited. If I start outputting images of Iron Man, yes, that is very clearly prohibited by copyright law. I cannot do that. That is clear. But at the input level, it's not clear. And actually, what Ben Thompson was saying is that companies like Adobe are trying to argue for a more restrictive version of the future, where they're trying to say that, hey, your input has to be heavily restricted. You cannot even get...
Wait, okay, help me understand this, because my knowledge may be limited because of what I understand from this. But is it the problem with these models, like the problem with internet in general? Like once they've been trained, the cat is out of the bag. Like once you've trained a model on the internet, it's done. Like we have sufficient data that's already been generated on the internet to like have these models already trained. Like Midjourney is there. Like, what are you going to do? It exists. And like you can copy, like, okay, Midjourney is a closed source, but there are like OpenJourney, which is an open source Midjourney, like ChatGPT, for example, right?
I think the question is not about the model. The question is, can you commercialize the output of the model or not? That's the main question. As an output of this model, I got a video or an image.
But you yourself said that, like, even OpenAI does not know what it's been trained on. It's like there's the problem of explainability.
Yeah,
and
so,
as you, like, is there a way right now to determine from the output of a model what training data was included in that model?
No, there's not. But I think we need to answer, is there a legal need to even clarify that question?
But because from what I'm hearing you say, and based on my discussion, you're saying like one possible competitive advantage you might have as a solopreneur or any business might be your training data, right?
Like that's what companies like Adobe are trying to argue. Actually, Adobe is trying to argue that, hey, like, you need to train only on legitimate data sources. You need to train on like stock images or non-copyrighted images. Like if you train on copyrighted images, that's not legitimate. That's in Adobe's interest to make this argument, because they own a lot of like stock images that they can train on, and Midjourney doesn't.
I know we're talking specifically about images because of the example I used, but
the same applies to text. Like if I train on text from blogs, books that are copyrighted, is that a copyright violation or not? Like, no one knows.
Yeah, it's just the way you describe it. Let's say it does come into fruition. It sounds like a better version of the solution will be trained on everything. A suboptimal version of the solution would be restricted in its training. And eventually, I feel like our tendency would be to opt for the better solution. We'll figure out, like, the laws will align to that. Everything will align to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the laws will align, though, because right now, think about where did a lot of training data came from.
I'll tell you, the argument that you're making is when Uber came to India in a lot of cities, they were saying, no, let's figure out a way to keep the taxi drivers employed. And they were trying to figure out all these ways on making Uber worse, so that the taxi company stays uncompetitive. That's one way to go about it. But eventually you'll realize that that's a futile effort, because if there is a possibility of something more awesome, like our tendency is to go towards that.
But I think the analogy breaks down in this way, because like Uber, for its existence, does not depend on taxi companies. Whereas like these AI models, for their very existence, depend on individual like content creators.
That's another good topic that we can discuss.
Yeah.
These models right now, as I understand them, they require a huge amount of training data. We humans don't.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's like this question's coming from like the evolution that we discussed, that like once we hit a wall with our machine learning based solutions, the way we found the next breakthrough was to emulate the way humans worked or human mind works. Now, if you take that analogy further, or if you take that solutioning further, then like we don't require a lot of training data. Like if you had to compress that into like bytes,
we can understand like concepts.
Yeah.
If you tell me a concept, I can understand it with very little data.
Yeah.
Whereas a model needs like tons of examples.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not far-fetched to think that the next evolution would be a massive reduction in the training data required to get the same or better output quality.
It's possible.
Yeah. Then what? Like so. My original question remains: is like, is this like a winner takes all type deal where it's futile for like the dream of solopreneur? That's why I said solopreneurship. I'm not saying.
So I think actually this is a good point to distinguish. Like, what are the different? We're talking about entrepreneurial opportunities in the market space, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's define the different market segments here. So there's, on the one hand, I think classically right now, VCs and people are dividing this into 3 or 4 market segments. There's hardware, that's the base layer. NVIDIA.
Right. Google with its TPUs.
Yeah, they're providing the hardware layer. That's number 1. Number 2 is foundation models. That's like the large language models. OpenAI is the main player right now, but like Google, Meta, and other companies are getting into that space. So that's 2 layers. The third layer is the application layer. We're like building on top of the foundation models, like you're building specific applications. I actually don't know if there's a fourth layer or not.
That's the thing, the application layer.
Yeah.
I feel like the foundational model layers are going to consume the application layer, which and the reason I worry about that, even though I'm not like a solo entrepreneur, like I don't have any product, but I've seen this happen, and this has been a big complaint against big tech companies, right? Like without getting into the specifics, a lot of times people will like develop extensions for browsers or like some app which consume Facebook APIs or like Snapchat APIs, and then eventually what happens is Facebook just creates that product themselves, removes API access, or let's say it doesn't even
But
remove it.
Facebook is not at the model layer, right? That's the application layer.
Yeah, I'm saying the model itself would
Yeah.
generalize so much.
But it's fundamentally not possible unless the model can have access to Facebook or Google's data.
No. In this analogy of like the model, your application is some specific use case that uses the model and then enables that use case. I'm saying the model itself will become so powerful and so generalized that you don't need the application layer. It'll eliminate.
But I need specific data. We talked about like access to knowledge, external knowledge and data, right?
Yeah.
Like it needs access to my.
That's just one use case, and that can be solved with plugins. Like, why would that enable any more business use cases than hey? Like this
Actually, like the plugins question is more complicated. Like, why would if I am say
like imagine OpenAI, right?
No, I work for Facebook, right?
Yeah.
I work for Meta. So my company owns WhatsApp. Why would WhatsApp release a plugin for OpenAI? That doesn't make any sense. Why would Facebook want to give OpenAI access to like all WhatsApp messages?
Why would Facebook want to give OpenAI access to an entrepreneur? Here we're talking about like the business opportunities, right?
I don't think this will ever happen. I don't think Meta is ever gonna like make a plugin for OpenAI. I
understand that, but I'm saying with that same logic, Meta would also not expose that API to any solopreneur or an entrepreneur who wants to create a business.
No, that already exists. There's WhatsApp for Business. There's a WhatsApp Business API. You can use it to create like automated messaging. You can create a store. Like
right.
You can do a lot. You can, like WhatsApp is used to run.
Let's stick with that example. Let's say there's this API.
Yeah.
And I use Meta's LLM. Like in the future, let's say Meta comes with their own ChatGPT LLM.
Yeah.
And then I build some application. What's to stop Meta from making the LLM so generalized that eliminates the need of this particular application? That's my problem. Like,
what is the particular application you have in mind?
Whatever it is, like I'm saying, eventually the prompting to ChatGPT will be so generalized, that they itself will act as an everything application. But it'll be multimodal. Here's the thing, like it'll be multimodal. So your input will be multimodal, meaning it could be like text or image or whatever, and the output will be multimodal. And when you have multimodal input and multimodal output, all you need to do is just generalize the application layer, and then with text, I can say, here's what I want with this input, and here's the output.
I think it'll ultimately come down to like what data sources and applications you can plug into and integrate with. Like I think that will be a big differentiator. I don't think GPT will, like, there's OpenAI, there's Google, Microsoft, Facebook. They all control different applications, and I don't think...
these will still be the players. I'm not saying these will go away. What I'm saying is, like, my original question was, like, as you and I, let's say we want to explore, like, some business ideas over here. And it's not just like, hey, let's create something and hope that we'll get acquired or, like, acqui-hired or whatever. Like, let's create something durable, enduring. Like, I want to devote the next 25 years of my life. But like the way I'm thinking about this is eventually whatever I do will be generalized within those foundational models.
I guess like what I'm saying is if the thing you're doing requires access to some specific knowledge base, like that is not something that can be absorbed in a foundation
in
model.
that case, it
like
will
we
be
talked about this, right?
I know what you mean. But I'm saying in that case, let's
like where is this knowledge base?
Yeah, I understand. So let's say I build a company that uses some special knowledge base, and I obviously want customers, right? And my customers will actually have the special knowledge base. It's not that I have. I'm saying what stops these LLMs to create like a general interface? Like, hey, as a customer, you going through this, cut the middleman out.
Oh, that is ChatGPT plugins, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like the way I see these things evolving, you're saying ChatGPT plugins and AutoGPT. I am thinking that the need, like increasingly, I see the tech world going into a direction where it's cutting the middleman from everywhere. Like it's famously described as your take rate is my opportunity. Like what that means is like Amazon will say that, hey, looks like, hey, you were selling something, you're paying the retailers 25% margin. That take rate is my opportunity. I'll sell it for 2.5% margin. So I'm going to like cut the margin by like my take rate by an order of magnitude. I'll just take 10% of what your existing retailers take and come to my website. So I'm saying that like if you just generalize it and like take it further, it sounds like everything's going to a direction where there'll be one prompt, multimodal prompt. Here's what I need. Here's my data. Here's the output I need. And that like the foundational model will do that. Like I said, I've been grappling with that because ever since like we've been discussing this for a while. Like we just happened to have this discussion in depth today, but I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I'm like, oh, I have this fascinating. Like Monica had this fascinating idea. It's like, oh, I'm gonna come up with like this AI stylist who's gonna do this and that. I'm like, I see it working really well now. But like I'll always be living in like this existential fear that like because I can't build the foundational models that empower this business. What is to stop these foundational models? Just generalize it to a point where they just consume my business.
Because I think like your business is based on a knowledge of your specific customers, their requirements, their workflows, which the foundational models are like, I understand language in general.
Yeah.
And you're trying to specify that and come up with a very specific application to a niche use case. So I don't think that will be disrupted. What's a good analogy to this? Like it's like that's like saying like because cloud computing providers exist, like application layers will become irrelevant. That's not
it's
true.
different this time. Like I know it's you can't always use that, but I think it's different because the thing that we're dealing with has an agency, has intelligence. Like I'm using words that you used in our discussion.
Yeah.
What's the goal of AI? Let's go back to absolute basics. To delegate human intelligence to these systems.
Yeah.
What is the most evolved product that we discussed today? Has a sense of agency.
Hugging GPT.
Now you combine those two, dude.
Yeah.
Like there's a system that has a sense of agency, has like unparalleled human intelligence.
But like the thing is, there are a bunch of models out here that is using. These are kind of commoditized.
Yeah, open source. Like these are like available open source. Like
yeah, but like the open source versions may not be good, and you need some close.
It's going to design its own. Again,
but there's proprietary data. Like I think that's the thing.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. The ultimate customer will have a very simple way in submitting their proprietary data. And the model for that is plugins. Like you explained it to me and I understood what it means, like plugins.
But I think different types of proprietary data need different types of plugins, and like the type...
You generalize that even, like multimodal plugins.
I'm not sure of that, but what is the task ultimately that you want to do? Each task requires a different type of data access.
That's what I'm saying. Like stuff like Agent GPT or Auto GPT comes in. Like I have a multimodal plugin where I'm like, I need this done. And the Auto GPT will figure out like, okay, I need to like, let's take the basic example of mathematics and calculator.
Yeah.
I want to multiply 1000 into 1644, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't do this right now.
Yeah.
But it'll figure out that it's a mathematical problem and here are all the tools that I need.
Yeah.
And maybe there's an opportunity to develop these sub APIs, but I'm saying like what is to stop it from writing those APIs even? Like calling more agents.
Here's one of the ideas that I've been exploring, which is like, I want to help people write their resumes.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about specific examples.
Someone has a resume.
Yeah.
And they want to improve it. And I have been thinking about like, hey, can I generate like an AI-based agent that can help someone improve their resume? So how would that be genericized? Like what I want to do is take someone's resume, help them understand like what are the weak points in their resume and help them develop that. And right now, like if we put it through this Hugging GPT system, it might find some open source models that can do things like find your suitability to a particular job or like your like skills suitability or whatever, but maybe there are better specific models to do that. Maybe for specific domains, I could have specific data that helps with that. Like if you are applying for resumes in product management, like maybe I have a database of product management resumes that I could use to specifically optimize that. So yeah, in that context, maybe can you help me understand like what your fear is from a like I don't at all see
in the short term, maybe not. I agree with you. In the short term, yes. But if I extrapolate like the advancements that are happening in this technology at an exponential scale, then your business is competing with like this exponentially increasing intelligence. And whatever you're going to bring, like fine tuning the algorithm, can you keep up with this thing that like has gone from figuring out home prices and oranges and apples to like this thing?
So I think
That's my
there's
fear.
always going to be like the general version and the specific version, and I think the foundational
Is that
models like this,
can I challenge that premise? Is there
yeah,
always going to
possibly.
be?
Yeah.
Is there always going to be? And I mean,
But I think,
I don't know. Like you're most likely you're right.
yeah.
Most, I think there's a very good chance that you are right. Like yeah. It's just I actually want to prove myself wrong. Like this fear that I
So
have.
I think there will always be a need to fine tune the generic version to a specific version. Like, I don't think it's possible that you can say I've come up with the generic version of something that is like absolutely fine-tuned to any specific use case. Like, because if I say I want to write a resume, I want to write a college application, I want to write an email to my friend, these are all like specific applications. So it's possible what you're saying though, that like maybe some generic
No, it's a great
and
discussion.
that's AGI, artificial general intelligence. Like this is
and the
so intelligent.
MVP in the like the way you describe it in your product manager world, like a minimum viable product, already exists.
Yeah, ChatGPT.
No, AutoGPT, like this thing.
Okay.
Like this is the MVP to an AGI. That's insane.
Yeah. There's
We're
an MVP
in 2023, and the MVP for AGI already exists.
And it's Jarvis or Hugging.
Yeah, like, and they're naming it like Jarvis and making it sound cute, like Iron Man, whatever. But the thing is, it already exists. So if you take that exponential scale, like this thing is going to get smart. But I take your point. So you're saying one area of exploration for a lot of entrepreneurs could be like this fine tuning. Let's define it by a simple word: fine tuning.
Specific domain knowledge. Fine tuning actually has a specific meaning within the language model world, so I wouldn't use that. But I would say like application to domain specific application. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's hope that that's the
domain
case.
knowledge.
Because otherwise, and I can think of other competitive modes that you can have. Like this seems like a good one. I hope that remains. Because if that goes away,
knowledge of like process, pain points, like I don't know, the classic like entrepreneur stuff.
I'll explain. Maybe I want to explain it better. Like, what's my worry? Ever since you told me about the subscription of ChatGPT, where you can use the ChatGPT 4 model, it's insane. I've not been as impressed by technology since internet. Like I remember like 20 years back when I first discovered internet, that's how I felt about it. And that's like the feeling that I'm getting now. And it's super smart. And if this is in 2023, then I've also started thinking about this like from my daughter's point of view, like, right? Like when she's 18, this what would be the level at which this technology would be? So like maybe hopefully in the next 18 years, it will still be the case that fine tuning or like finding your domain knowledge and processes will still define your competitive mode. I have a fear that it might not, because you're competing with something which is exponentially increasing its intelligence, human intelligence.
And this is what people are saying. Like there are people that are very worried about this, and they're saying this is AGI and this is going to put all humans out of their jobs, and we have to have universal basic income, and there's no more jobs for humans to do. Like all of this is possible. Like, I don't know. I don't have a
I think this is a very good place to end this discussion. We don't know. Like I think that no, this is the perfect place. Like we don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? But as of now, in the month of April in 2023, this is where things stand.
Is it April or May? Oh, okay, it's still April.
It's still April. We're heading towards May. Dude, thank you so much for this fascinating conversation. I'm so glad we did this.
I really enjoy this conversation.
Like this is great. Like we're sitting in like outside in California.
This is one of the longest conversations I've ever had.
Yeah, but this is so much fun, and I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah.
I hope whoever's watching, if they ever watch, enjoys this.